The decision. Michael Thompson's life had always been shaped by his meticulous plans. At 35, he had built a successful career as an architect in Atlanta, Georgia, renowned for his groundbreaking designs that merged aesthetics with sustainability. His modern, sunlit home stood as a testament to his ingenuity, complete with expansive glass windows and a lush rooftop garden. Yet for all his achievements, Michael felt an emptiness he couldn't quite articulate. On an ordinary Tuesday morning, while sipping his usual black coffee and scrolling through his tablet, an article on the local news app caught his eye. It detailed the stories of children in foster care, specifically, the struggles of African American kids who often faced longer waits for adoption. The piece highlighted heartbreaking statistics and profiles of children who longed for stability and love. Michael couldn't stop thinking about it, even hours later as he navigated through client meetings and blueprints. That night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind filled with questions. Could he be the one to provide a home for a child, or even children? Was he ready for such a monumental shift in his life? The idea wouldn't let him go. Over the next few days, Michael dove deep into research. He read articles, watched videos, and attended online forums about adoption, specifically transracial adoption. The more he learned, the more he felt an unshakable pull toward it. His friends thought he was crazy when he first mentioned it at a weekend barbecue. You? Adopting kids. And not just kids. You're talking about 4 black girls. Mike, do you even know what you're getting into? His best friend, Ryan, asked with a laugh as he flipped burgers on the grill. Michael didn't take offense. He knew Ryan meant well. I get it, man, Michael replied, keeping his tone calm. It's not the usual path. And yeah, it's going to be hard. But just because something's hard doesn't mean it's not worth doing. Ryan raised an eyebrow but said no more. Others at the barbecue exchanged skeptical glances, but Michael let their doubts roll off his back. A week later, Michael signed up for an adoption seminar hosted by a local agency. The room was filled with couples, single parents, and others exploring adoption. Michael sat in the back, taking notes as the speakers discussed the challenges of adopting siblings, particularly children who had experienced trauma. At the end of the seminar, Michael approached Karen, one of the agency's senior representatives. She was a woman in her early 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Michael explained his interest in adopting 4 African American sisters. Karen gave him a long, measured look. Michael, that's an incredible goal, but adopting siblings isn't easy. And 4 children. You'll need to be prepared for a lot. Emotional scars, behavioral challenges, financial strain. Are you sure you want to do this? I've thought about it, Michael said firmly. And I know it won't be easy. But these girls need a home. They deserve a shot at a better life. And I believe I can give that to them. Karen nodded, clearly impressed by his conviction. All right, she said. But we're going to put you through the ringer. Be ready. And she wasn't kidding. Over the next several months, Michael underwent a grueling process. Home studies, financial assessments, psychological evaluations, and parenting workshops filled his schedule. He spent hours preparing his home, turning his guest rooms into warm, welcoming spaces. He chose soft pinks and lavenders for the walls and adorned the rooms with cheerful art and cozy furniture. He even installed a large dining table, envisioning family dinners filled with laughter and stories. Throughout the process, his friends and colleagues remained skeptical. Why not just adopt 1 child? His coworker Jenna asked during a lunch break. 4 is a lot, Mike, especially when you're doing this alone. Michael simply smiled. Because those 4 girls are sisters. They've already lost so much. I'm not going to separate them. Finally, after months of preparation, Michael received the call he had been waiting for. Karen informed him about the 4 sisters. Aaliyah, age 8, Brianna, age 6, Chloe, age 5, and Destiny, age 3. The girls had been in the foster care system for nearly 2 years after losing their parents in a car accident. Efforts to place them together had failed, and the agency was desperate to find a family willing to adopt all four. When Michael met the girls for the first time, he was struck by how different they were. Alia, the eldest, was stoic and protective, her arms wrapped tightly around her younger sisters. Brianna clung to a tattered book, her gaze wary but curious. Chloe, with her wild curls and mischievous smile, kept darting glances at him. And Destiny, the youngest, was a whirlwind of energy, giggling as she tried to climb onto a chair that was too tall for her. Michael knelt down to their level, his heart pounding. "Hi, girls. I'm Michael," he said, his voice warm but steady. "You can call me Mike if you want. I know this is all new and probably a little scary, but I want you to know that I'm here for you." Alia eyed him with suspicion. "Why do you want us?" she asked bluntly. Her question hit him hard, but Michael didn't flinch. "Because I want to give you a home, a place where you can feel safe and loved. I know it's going to take time for you to trust me. And that's okay, but I'm not going anywhere. I promise." Alia didn't respond, but Michael saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Hope, perhaps, though she wasn't ready to admit it. The transition wasn't easy. The girls had their own traumas and fears, and Michael had moments of doubt. Alia often tested his patience, challenging his authority as a way to protect her sisters. Brianna struggled with nightmares and rarely spoke above a whisper. Chloe's mischievous streak sometimes bordered on defiance, and Destiny, while full of joy, had trouble sitting still for more than a few minutes. But Michael was determined. He sought out therapy for the girls and leaned on the support networks he had built during the adoption process. He learned to navigate haircare routines, cultural nuances, and the unique challenges of raising four daughters. Gradually, the walls the girls had built around themselves began to crumble. Alia started opening up, sharing stories about her parents and her dreams of becoming a teacher. Brianna began to smile more often, finding comfort in reading with Michael before bed. Chloe discovered a love for drawing, filling the house with colorful creations. And Destiny, she became the heart of the family, her laughter and boundless energy reminding everyone of the joy in life's simplest moments. One evening, as they gathered around the dining table for dinner, Alia looked up at Michael and said, "You really meant it, didn't you? About not going anywhere." Michael set down his fork and met her gaze. "I did, and I always will." For the first time, Alia smiled, a real, unguarded smile. In that moment, Michael knew he had made the right choice. The journey ahead wouldn't be without its challenges, but they would face them together as a family. Building bonds. The first few weeks after the girls moved into Michael's home were a whirlwind of adjustments, emotions, and small victories. For Michael, it was a trial by fire. Going from a quiet, structured life to one filled with the constant energy and chaos of four young girls was nothing short of life-changing. He quickly realized that loving them was the easy part. Earning their trust and building a sense of stability was where the real work began. The first challenge was establishing a routine. Michael knew that the girls needed structure to feel safe, but that wasn't easy when every morning seemed to start with a mini crisis. One day it was Chloe refusing to get out of bed, her blanket wrapped tightly around her as she declared the world was too loud. Another day it was Destiny spilling her cereal all over the kitchen floor and bursting into tears. Michael tried to stay calm, even when he felt overwhelmed. "It's okay, Destiny," he said softly as he knelt to clean up the mess. "We'll just pour another bowl. Accidents happen." But Destiny wasn't used to such patience. She watched him with wide eyes, sniffling, as if she expected him to yell. When he didn't, she hesitated, then threw her tiny arms around his neck. "Sorry, Daddy," she whispered. It was the first time any of the girls had called him Daddy. Michael froze, his heart swelling. "You don't need to be sorry," he said, hugging her back. Small moments like that gave him hope, even on the hard days. Learning to navigate their world. Each girl brought her own personality and challenges into the mix. Alia, as the oldest, had taken on a parental role long before Michael entered their lives. She often acted more like a caretaker than an 8-year-old, constantly watching over her sisters and stepping in whenever she thought Michael wasn't doing something right. "You're putting too much jelly on her sandwich," Alia said one afternoon, standing on tiptoes to inspect Michael's work. Michael glanced at her and smiled. "Is that so? How much is the right amount?" "Just enough to cover it, but not so much it makes the bread soggy," she replied, crossing her arms. Michael handed her the butter knife. "All right, boss. Show me how it's done." She hesitated, then took the knife and carefully spread the jelly. For the first time, Michael saw a flicker of pride in her expression. Brianna was the quiet one, always clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mr. Hops," she struggled to open up, often retreating to her room when things felt overwhelming. Michael decided to take a gentle approach with her, reading books to her at bedtime and letting her set the pace. One evening, as he finished reading Charlotte's Web, Brianna finally spoke up. "Do you think Charlotte was scared when she died?" The question caught him off guard. He set the book down and looked at her. "Maybe a little," he admitted, "but I think she was also proud of what she'd done. She helped Wilbur and made a difference, even though it was hard." Brianna nodded thoughtfully. "I want to be like Charlotte," she said quietly. Michael smiled. "You already are." Chloe, on the other hand, was a firecracker. She loved testing boundaries and had a knack for finding trouble. One afternoon, Michael found her covered in paint, standing in the middle of what used to be a white living room wall. "Chloe," he began, pinching the bridge of his nose. "What happened here?" "It's art," she said proudly, holding up her paintbrush. Michael sighed but couldn't help chuckling. "Next time, let's use paper, okay?" Cultural connections. As a white man raising 4 black girls, Michael knew he had a responsibility to ensure they stayed connected to their culture and identity. He reached out to friends and community leaders for guidance, attending workshops on hair care and cultural awareness. One Saturday, he took the girls to a local salon specializing in black hair. The stylist, a warm woman named Tamika, greeted them with a smile. "You've got your hands full," Tamika said as she examined the girls' hair. "But don't worry, we'll get you all fixed up." As Tamika worked, she chatted with the girls, making them laugh and feel at ease. She also gave Michael a crash course in maintaining their hair. "Moisture is key," she said, handing him a bottle of leave-in conditioner. "And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it." By the time they left, the girls were beaming, their hair styled in braids and twists. Michael couldn't stop smiling either, proud of how happy and confident they looked. Finding joy in the small things. As the weeks turned into months, the family began to settle into a rhythm. Michael made it a point to carve out individual time with each girl, whether it was helping Alia with her homework, painting with Chloe, or taking Brianna to the library. Destiny, of course, was always attached to his side, her boundless energy keeping him on his toes. One evening, after a particularly chaotic day, Michael decided to surprise the girls with a family movie night. He set up a projector in the backyard, complete with blankets, pillows, and a popcorn machine. As the opening credits rolled, Destiny climbed into his lap, Brianna snuggled against his side, and Chloe and Alia shared a bowl of popcorn. For the first time in years, the girls felt truly at home. Alia looked up at him and whispered, "This is the best night ever." Michael hugged her tightly. "It's just the beginning, kiddo." A turning point. The breakthrough moment came one stormy night. A thunderclap sent Destiny running into Michael's room, tears streaming down her face. Moments later, Alia appeared in the doorway, followed by Chloe and Brianna. Michael pulled back the covers. "Come on in," he said, patting the bed. The girls climbed in, huddling close as the storm raged outside. Michael told them stories about his childhood, about the time he built a treehouse that collapsed, and the time he tried to bake cookies and accidentally used salt instead of sugar. By the time the storm passed, the girls were laughing, their fears forgotten. As they drifted off to sleep, Aliyah whispered, "Thank you, Daddy." Michael lay awake for a long time after that, listening to their soft breathing and feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He didn't just give these girls a home, they gave him a family. The journey was far from over. There were still challenges to face, wounds to heal, and lessons to learn. But in that moment, Michael knew they were exactly where they were meant to be, together. Strength in the struggles. As the months turned into a year, Michael and his daughters settled into a routine that felt like home. Each girl had begun to show more of herself, and the walls of fear and mistrust that once separated them were slowly coming down. But the path to becoming a family wasn't without its struggles. Michael quickly learned that parenting wasn't just about love. It was about resilience, understanding, and being ready for anything. The biggest challenges often came from the things he didn't see coming. The deep, invisible wounds the girls carry from their past. Aliyah's burden. Aliyah had always been the leader of the group, the one who watched over her sisters like a hawk. But her sense of responsibility sometimes turned into defiance, especially when she felt Michael was stepping into her territory. One evening, Michael found Aliyah sitting on the floor of the hallway, sorting through a pile of clothes that belonged to her sisters. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Chloe left her clothes all over the room again, she said with a sharp edge in her voice. "If I don't clean it up, no one will." Michael gently took her hands, stilling them. "Aliyah, you don't have to do this. It's not your job to take care of everything anymore. That's my job now." She pulled her hands away, her eyes blazing. "You don't get it. I have to do it. What if you decide you don't want us anymore? What if you leave, like everyone else?" Her words hit Michael like a punch to the gut. He realized that, despite all his efforts, Aliyah still carried the weight of her past, a fear that one day, this new life would crumble, just like the old one. "I'm not going anywhere," Michael said firmly, his voice steady. "No matter what happens, you and your sisters will always have a home with me. I promise." Aliyah didn't respond, but later that night, she slipped into his office while he was working. Without saying a word, she hugged him tightly before retreating to her room. It was a small step, but for Michael, it was monumental. Brianna's quiet struggles. While Aliyah's challenges were loud and upfront, Brianna's were quiet, hidden beneath her shy demeanor. Michael noticed that she often avoided social situations, clinging to her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hops, as if it were a lifeline. When Brianna's teacher called to discuss her reluctance to participate in class, Michael decided to take action. He started by encouraging her to help him in the garden, knowing she loved the calmness of nature. "Bri, you see these flowers?" he asked one Saturday afternoon, pointing to a row of marigolds. She nodded, brushing her fingers over the petals. "They're like you," Michael said, "beautiful and strong, even if they don't always stand out right away. Sometimes it takes time for people to notice how amazing something is, but it doesn't make it any less special." Brianna gave him a small smile, and for the first time, Michael saw a glimmer of confidence in her eyes. Chloe's mischievous nature. Chloe, the family's creative spark, had a knack for turning every situation into an adventure, sometimes to Michael's frustration. One day, he discovered that she had turned his office into an art studio, with sketches and paint smudges covering his desk. "Chloe," Michael said, trying to keep his voice calm, "why is there glitter on my laptop?" "It's for my masterpiece," she declared, holding up a painting of what appeared to be their family. Stick figures with big smiles. Michael couldn't stay mad. He knelt down and studied the painting. "You know what? This is actually pretty great. But next time, let's use paper instead of my work stuff, okay?" Chloe grinned. "Okay, Daddy." Her art became a source of pride for the entire family. Michael even set up a bulletin board in the living room to display her creations, which Chloe proudly called her gallery. Destiny's endless energy. Destiny, the youngest, was a whirlwind of energy and curiosity. She had an uncanny ability to get into trouble, whether it was climbing onto the kitchen counter to reach the cookie jar, or trying to help Michael fix a leaky faucet by dumping glitter into the toolbox. One day, after a particularly exhausting round of chasing Destiny around the house, Michael collapsed onto the couch, groaning. "Destiny, you're going to give me gray hair before I'm 40. Destiny giggled and climbed onto his lap. "But you still love me, right?" Michael kissed the top of her head. Always. Her boundless energy was a challenge, but it was also a reminder of the joy she brought to their lives. Facing the outside world. While the challenges at home were manageable, the outside world wasn't always as understanding. Michael often faced judgmental looks and intrusive questions from strangers who didn't understand their family dynamic. At the grocery store, an older woman once asked, "Are you their babysitter?" Michael smiled politely, though his stomach churned. "No, I'm their father." The woman's eyes widened. "All of them?" "Yes, all of them," Michael said firmly, walking away before she could say anything else. The girls noticed the stares too, especially Aaliyah. One day, after an uncomfortable encounter at the park, she asked, "Why do people look at us like that?" Michael crouched down to her level. "Because they don't understand," he said gently. "But that's their problem, not ours. What matters is that we know we're a family, no matter what anyone else thinks." Aaliyah nodded, her expression thoughtful. A family milestone. As the first anniversary of their adoption approached, Michael decided to celebrate with a family trip to the beach. It was the girls' first time seeing the ocean, and their excitement was contagious. Destiny squealed with delight as the waves lapped at her feet, while Chloe ran up and down the shore, collecting seashells. Brianna built an elaborate sandcastle, her face glowing with concentration, and Aaliyah stood at the edge of the water, letting the tide wash over her toes. Michael watched them, his heart full. He thought back to the day he first met them, how scared and uncertain they had been. Now they were thriving, their laughter echoing across the beach. That evening, as they sat around a bonfire roasting marshmallows, Aaliyah surprised him by pulling out a small notebook. "We made this for you," she said, handing it to him. Inside were drawings, notes, and little messages from each of the girls. Chloe had drawn a picture of their house, Brianna had written a poem, and Destiny's page was covered in colorful scribbles. Aaliyah's message was simple but heartfelt. "Thank you for never giving up on us." Michael blinked back tears as he hugged them all. "You girls are the best thing that ever happened to me," he said. In that moment, Michael realized something profound. It wasn't just about him saving them. They had saved him too. Though their journey was far from over, one thing was clear. They were a family, stronger together than they ever could have been apart. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. The road to healing. As the second year of their life together unfolded, Michael began to notice the subtle but significant changes in his daughters. The trust that had been so fragile in the beginning now felt stronger, like a tree with roots finally taking hold. The girls were beginning to embrace the idea of family, not just in the way they called him Daddy, but in the way they leaned on him and each other. But healing, Michael realized, was not a straight path. Each of the girls carried scars from their past, and while love had given them stability, it couldn't erase the pain. Confronting the past. One quiet evening, Aaliyah sat at the kitchen table, staring at a piece of paper. Michael was cleaning up from dinner when he noticed her intense focus. "What's that, Aaliyah?" he asked, drying his hands on a dish towel. "It's a letter," she said without looking up. "For our mom." Michael hesitated. He knew little about their biological mother, only that she had struggled with addiction and had eventually lost custody. It was a topic the girls rarely brought up, and he never pushed. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked gently. Aaliyah shrugged, her fingers gripping the pencil tightly. "I don't know if I'll send it. I just want her to know we're okay. That we're happy now." Michael sat down beside her. "That's a beautiful thing to share," he said. "Even if you never send it, Writing it down can help you feel better." Aliyah nodded, and for the first time, she let him read over her shoulder. The letter was simple but heartfelt, a mix of anger, sadness, and hope. Michael could see how much weight she still carried, but he also saw her strength. "You're so brave," he told her. "And no matter what, I'm proud of you." That night, Aliyah left the letter on the table, unfinished, but Michael saw it as a step toward healing, a sign that she was beginning to process her past in her own way. Destiny's nightmare. Destiny, the youngest, had always been the most outwardly cheerful of the four. But Michael started noticing cracks in her bubbly exterior. She had trouble sleeping, often waking up crying from nightmares she couldn't explain. One night, Michael found her curled up in her bed, clutching her favorite stuffed animal, her face streaked with tears. "Destiny," he said softly, sitting beside her. "Did you have a bad dream?" She nodded, burying her face in his chest. "I don't remember what happened, but it was scary." Michael held her close, rocking her gently. "You're safe now, sweetheart. Nothing can hurt you here." "But what if it does?" she whispered. Michael's heart ached. He wanted so badly to protect her from everything, but he knew he couldn't erase her fears overnight. "If anything ever tries to hurt you," he said, "I'll be here, always." After that, Michael began reading bedtime stories with a calming theme to help Destiny feel secure. Slowly, her nightmares became less frequent, and her bright smile returned. Brianna's voice. For Brianna, healing came in the form of expression. Michael noticed how much she loved drawing and writing, so he encouraged her to explore those interests. He bought her a sketchbook and a set of colored pencils, and she spent hours filling its pages with detailed drawings of animals, flowers, and even her family. One day, Brianna hesitated before showing him a drawing. "It's me," she said quietly, holding up the paper. The image was of a girl standing in a field, surrounded by flowers. But instead of looking happy, the girl had a storm cloud over her head, with rain pouring down. Michael knelt beside her, studying the drawing. "This is really good," he said. "What does the rain mean?" Brianna shrugged. "It's just how I feel sometimes. Like, even when everything's good, the rain doesn't go away." Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. "That's okay, Bri. It's okay to feel like that sometimes. But you know what? Rain helps things grow. And I think you're growing into someone amazing." Brianna smiled, a small, hesitant smile, but it was enough for Michael to know he was reaching her. Chloe's big adventure. Chloe, the family's whirlwind of energy and creativity, had a way of making every day an adventure, but her impulsiveness often got her into trouble. One Saturday, Michael decided to channel her energy into something positive. He signed her up for an art class at the community center, hoping it would give her a constructive outlet. At first, Chloe was hesitant. "What if I'm not as good as the other kids?" she asked. Michael knelt down and looked her in the eye. "You don't have to be the best, Chloe. You just have to have fun and try your best." By the end of the first class, Chloe was beaming. She held up a painting of a colorful sunset, her pride evident. "This is amazing," Michael said, genuinely impressed. Chloe grinned. "Maybe I'll be a famous artist one day." Michael laughed. "I don't doubt it for a second." Facing judgment together. While the girls were thriving at home, the outside world wasn't always kind. Michael continued to face stares and questions from strangers who didn't understand their family dynamic. But now, the girls had begun to stand up for themselves. One day, while at the park, a woman approached Michael and asked, "Are all of these your children?" Before Michael could answer, Aliyah stepped forward. "Yes, we're his daughters. Is that a problem?" The woman looked taken aback and quickly walked away. Michael hid a smile as he placed a hand on Aliyah's shoulder. "You handled that perfectly," he said. Aliyah shrugged but couldn't hide her grin. Someone had to. The moment showed Michael how far they had come as a family. The girls weren't just relying on him, they were beginning to rely on each other. The anniversary celebration. To mark 2 years together, Michael planned a surprise family trip to the mountains. It was a chance to escape the noise of the city and reconnect with nature. The girls were ecstatic as they explored the hiking trails, collecting leaves and pointing out birds. Chloe insisted on taking photos of everything, declaring herself the family photographer. Brianna sketched the scenery, while Alia helped Destiny climb over rocks and tree roots. One evening, as they sat around a campfire roasting marshmallows, Alia spoke up. "I used to think we'd never have a family again," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "But now, I can't imagine life without you, Daddy." The other girls nodded in agreement, their faces glowing in the firelight. Michael's throat tightened as he looked at them. "You girls are my family," he said, "and I'm the luckiest man in the world to have you." As the stars filled the night sky, Michael felt a deep sense of peace. The journey hadn't been easy, and there were still challenges ahead, but they had come so far. Together, they had built something beautiful, something unbreakable. And as they sat there, wrapped in the warmth of the fire and each other's love, Michael knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it as a family. Triumphs and trials. The 3rd year of their life as a family brought milestones and challenges, laughter and tears, and moments that cemented their bond in ways Michael could never have imagined. But it also brought new trials, ones that tested their strength and forced them to grow even closer. Alia steps into leadership. Now 13, Alia was beginning to blossom into a confident, determined young woman. She had taken on a natural leadership role, not just within the family, but also at school. One day, she surprised Michael by announcing she had run for student council president. "You did what?" Michael asked, his face lighting up with surprise. Alia shrugged, trying to play it cool. "I figured I might as well try. I mean, I'm already good at organizing stuff here." Michael chuckled. "You're amazing at organizing things, but this is a big deal, Alia. Are you nervous?" She hesitated. "A little. What if people don't think I'm good enough?" Michael knelt in front of her, looking her in the eye. "Alia, you've overcome so much already. You've shown me every single day how strong, smart, and capable you are. If anyone can do this, it's you." On the day of the election results, Alia came home with a wide grin on her face, clutching the certificate. "I won, Daddy." Michael hugged her tightly. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You're going to make a difference." Alia's success wasn't just a personal victory. It was a reminder to her sisters that they, too, could achieve great things. Chloe's first art show. Meanwhile, Chloe's passion for art continued to grow. Michael had enrolled her in advanced art classes, and her teacher quickly recognized her talent. One day, the teacher invited Chloe to showcase her work in a community art exhibit. "Daddy, do you think people will like my paintings?" Chloe asked nervously as they prepared for the event. Michael knelt beside her, his hands on her shoulders. "Chloe, your art is full of heart. People will see that. And even if they don't, what matters is that you love what you've created." On the night of the exhibit, Chloe's section drew a surprising amount of attention. One of her paintings, a vibrant depiction of their family under a colorful sky, caught the eye of a local journalist who interviewed her for a feature about young artists. "You're a star, Chloe," Michael said as they walked home that night, her ribbon in hand. Chloe beamed. "Maybe one day I'll have my own gallery." Michael smiled. "I have no doubt about it." Brianna finds her voice. Brianna, the quiet dreamer, had always been content to stay in the background. But one day, she surprised everyone by announcing she wanted to audition for the school play. "I don't want a big part," she told Michael. "I just want to try." Michael was thrilled. "Bri, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you for stepping out of your comfort zone." On the day of the audition, Brianna was nervous but determined. When the cast list was posted, she had landed a supporting role. During the performance, Michael sat in the audience with her sisters, watching as Brianna transformed on stage. She wasn't just reciting lines, she was glowing with confidence. After the show, Michael hugged her tightly. You were incredible, Bri. I knew you had it in you. For Brianna, it was more than just a role. It was proof that she could step into the spotlight and shine. Destiny's endless curiosity. Destiny, now 6, remained a whirlwind of energy and curiosity. She had developed a love for books, often dragging Michael to the library to check out stacks of them. One day, Michael found her in the living room, surrounded by books and papers. "What are you working on, Des?" he asked. "I'm making a book," she declared, holding up a stapled-together stack of drawings and words. Michael flipped through it, smiling at her illustrations of animals and her stories about their adventures. "This is amazing, sweetheart. You're a little author." Destiny grinned. "Can we make a real book someday?" "Absolutely," Michael said, already brainstorming ways to make her dream come true. Facing new trials. While their family had grown stronger, life still had its challenges. Michael faced financial strain as he balanced his job and the needs of his daughters. He often stayed up late, budgeting and searching for ways to make ends meet. One night, Alia found him at the kitchen table, surrounded by bills. "Are we okay, Daddy?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. Michael smiled tiredly. "We're fine, sweetheart. It's just grown-up stuff." Alia hesitated before sitting beside him. "You've done so much for us. If there's ever anything we can do to help, just tell us, okay?" Michael's heart swelled with pride. "Thank you, Alia. Just knowing you girls are happy is all the help I need." The financial strain forced Michael to make sacrifices, but he never let the girls feel the weight of it. Their happiness was his priority, and he was determined to give them the life they deserved. Standing up to the world. As the girls grew older, they became more aware of the prejudice their family faced. One day, while at the grocery store, a man made a rude comment about Michael raising 4 black daughters. Before Michael could respond, Alia stepped forward. "Excuse me, but that's my dad you're talking about. He's the best dad in the world, and you don't get to judge us." The man looked stunned, muttered an apology, and walked away. Michael placed a hand on Alia's shoulder. "You didn't have to do that, but I'm proud of you." Alia shrugged. "Someone had to. We're a family, and no one gets to mess with that." The moment solidified what Michael already knew. His daughters were fierce, strong, and unshakable. A family bond unbreakable. One evening, as they sat together in the living room, Chloe suggested they create a family scrapbook. "It'll be like our story," she said, pulling out art supplies. The girls eagerly joined in, adding photos, drawings, and little notes about their favorite memories. As Michael flipped through the pages, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. This wasn't the life he had imagined for himself, but it was better than anything he could have dreamed. "We've come so far," Alia said, looking at the scrapbook. Michael nodded. "And we're just getting started." As they laughed and worked on the scrapbook late into the night, Michael knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. They were more than a family. They were a team, united by love and unbreakable in their bond. A legacy of love. As the 4th year of their life together dawned, Michael and his daughters found themselves standing on the brink of new opportunities and challenges. Each girl was growing into her own, carving out a place in the world, and with it came dreams, milestones, and the ever-present question, how far could they go together? Michael had no doubts. They could go anywhere. Dreams of the future. Alia, now 14, had developed a knack for advocacy. Her role as student council president gave her a platform to address real issues, and one of her first initiatives was a mentorship program for younger students struggling academically or socially. One night, she came to Michael with a proposal she had written on her own. "I want to start a program at school," she explained, handing him the neatly typed document. "It's for kids who need help, like tutoring or just someone to talk to. I think it could make a difference." Michael read through it, his heart swelling with pride. "This is incredible, Alia. I'll help you however I can." Alia's program launched that spring, quickly gaining traction. The local news even ran a feature on her efforts, calling her a rising leader with a heart for change. Watching her on television, Michael couldn't help but marvel at how far she'd come. She's going to change the world, he thought to himself. Chloe's first sale. Chloe's art had become more than a hobby, it was her passion. She had continued to participate in local exhibits, and one day, a gallery owner approached Michael with an offer to feature her work in a small showcase. "Are you serious?" Chloe asked, her eyes wide with excitement. "Completely," Michael said, showing her the email. "They love your work, Chloe. This is your chance to shine." The gallery opening was a magical night. Chloe stood proudly beside her paintings, chatting with visitors and explaining the stories behind each piece. By the end of the evening, she had sold 3 paintings, enough to start a savings account for her dream of art school. As they drove home, Chloe clutched the check in her hands, grinning from ear to ear. "I'm really doing it, Daddy," she said. "I'm going to be an artist." Michael reached over and squeezed her hand. "You already are, sweetheart." Brianna's quiet triumph. Brianna, now 12, had found her passion in writing. She spent hours crafting short stories, many of which were inspired by her family's journey. One day, she entered a national writing contest for middle school students. "I don't think I'll win," she admitted to Michael, "but I just want to try." When the email arrived announcing she had won first place, Brianna was speechless. Michael hugged her tightly. "I told you, you're amazing." Her story was published in an anthology, and Brianna was invited to read it at a special event in the city. Standing at the podium, she spoke with a quiet confidence that brought tears to Michael's eyes. Her story was about a girl who finds hope in the most unexpected place, a new family. Destiny's unstoppable curiosity. Destiny, now 7, was a whirlwind of questions and ideas. She had developed a fascination with science, often conducting experiments in the kitchen that left Michael cleaning up baking soda volcanoes and glitter explosions. One day, her school held a science fair, and Destiny insisted on participating. With Michael's help, she built a simple but impressive project about how plants grow under different conditions. On the day of the fair, Destiny stood proudly beside her display, explaining her findings to the judges with enthusiasm. She won first place in her age group and was invited to present her project at a regional competition. "You're going to be a scientist someday," Michael told her as they celebrated with ice cream. Destiny grinned. "I want to be an astronaut, too." Michael laughed. "Why not both? Building a legacy." As the girls flourished in their individual pursuits, Michael found himself reflecting on their journey. He had started this chapter of his life with nothing but a small apartment, a used car, and a heart full of determination. Now he had a family that filled his days with purpose and joy. But he also knew that their story wasn't just about their achievements, it was about the love that bound them together. One weekend, Michael decided to surprise the girls with a project. He had saved up to buy supplies to build a treehouse in their backyard. "Why a treehouse?" Alia asked as they unloaded the wood and tools. "Because it's something we can build together," Michael said. "And one day, when you're all grown up, you can look at it and remember everything we've done as a family." The project became a family affair. Chloe painted the walls with colorful designs. Brianna wrote quotes and stories on the beams. Destiny added her glittery touch, and Alia helped Michael with the construction. When it was finished, the treehouse stood as a testament to their journey, a physical representation of the love, resilience, and teamwork that had brought them this far. Confronting prejudice with strength. Despite their accomplishments, Michael and his daughters continued to face prejudice. One day, while attending a parent-teacher conference, a fellow parent made a snide remark about Michael's decision to adopt 4 black girls. Before Michael could respond, Alia stepped forward. "Excuse me, but my dad is the best parent anyone could ask for. He's given us a life we never thought we'd have. And if you can't see that, that's your problem." The room fell silent, and the parent quickly backed down. Michael placed a hand on Aaliyah's shoulder. "Thank you, sweetheart," he said softly. She shrugged. "It's the truth." A night to remember. To celebrate their 4th anniversary as a family, Michael planned a special dinner at their favorite restaurant. As they sat around the table, laughing and sharing stories, the waiter brought out a cake with the words, "Family Forever," written in frosting. Michael raised his glass of sparkling cider. "To my incredible daughters," he said, "you've made my life richer than I ever imagined. I'm so proud of each of you." Aaliyah smiled. "To our dad, the best in the world." As they clinked glasses, Michael felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every moment. In the end, their story wasn't about defying the odds or proving anyone wrong. It was about love, the kind of love that grows stronger with every challenge, every triumph, and every shared moment. As they walked out of the restaurant that night, Michael looked at his daughters and smiled. They were his legacy, his pride, and his joy, and together they were unstoppable.